Welcome back. Today I'm going to be going over this SAT unit conversion problem. And once again, thanks to Aniko.ai for providing this specific question in their free resources tab. But before I start explaining the problem, please give it a try yourself. Okay, so here we're given that a car's fuel efficiency is 32 miles per gallon, and using the conversions that 1 mile equals 1.61 kilometers and 1 gallon equals 3.79 liters, which choice is closest to the car's fuel consumption in liters per 100 kilometers? So right away, right, you'll know this is a unit conversion problem is because it tells us what the conversions are, right? So that's a good sign that they actually want you to convert something in the problem. And the key thing to do in these types of problems is look at the beginning and look at the end. What I mean by that is look at what they give us first. So they tell us that the fuel efficiency is 32 miles per gallon, right? So your goal for these unit conversion problems is to convert every given information into a ratio. So here, 32 gallons per 32 miles per gallon, that's well, you can write that as a ratio, right? 32 miles over 1 gallon, right? And look at the end, right? Here, what are they asking us? They're asking us to find the car's fuel consumption in liters, right, per 100 kilometers. So we know that the fuel consumption, right, we know that the unit has to be liters, right, because it tells us. But the difference is that it's asking us to find the number of liters per 100 kilometers. So that phrase itself can actually be confusing to interpret, but this is why I urge you to use my method called, it's called follow the flow, right? And what I mean by that is, well, use the conversions that they give us, right? So, for example, they tell us that 1 mile equals 1.61 kilometers, right? So 1 mile equals 1.61 kilometers. Well, let's use that conversion, right? So then you multiply this, and because it's 1 mile equals 1.61, you put the 1.61 kilometers, I'm just going to write km on top and the 1 mile on the bottom. Now, those of you who have seen these kind of types of problems may recognize that this is a form of factor labeling, but you might be wondering, well, why did I multiply by this value, by this conversion? Well, because the goal is to cross out the units, right? So if you multiply this together, you'll realize that these miles cancel out, right? So, and once again, right, follow the flow, keep on following that chain. Next up, we have that 1 gallon equals 3.79 liters. So, well, let's multiply by the fact that 1 gallon is equal to 3.79 liters. And of course, right, the gallons cancel out. Your goal always is to write the conversion in such a way that the units will cancel out, right? That's why I didn't write 3.79 liters over 1 gallon, but instead I wrote 1 gallon over 3.79 liters. And so when you multiply all these together, well, you'll realize that your leftover units are going to be kilometers over liters, right? And if you multiply everything, I'm going to use decimals here. We have 32 times 1.61, right, divided by 3.79. That's going to give us 13, and I'm going to round, but here it's going to give us 13.594, right? So what that means is that for every 1 liter of fuel that's consumed, well, the car goes 13.594 kilometers, right? And before I move on, right, another way to kind of check what unit you want in the end is, well, look at what they give us, right? They tell us that we're looking for liters, and they tell us that we're looking for liters per 100 kilometers. So you know that you're looking for kilometers and liters, right? So therefore, if you get kilometers and liters, right, as a unit, uh, when you multiply everything out, well, then you know that you're on the right path. Okay, so now we have this unit, right? We're trying to find the amount of liters per 100 kilometers, right? Well, what does that mean? Well, you can rewrite this as 13.594 kilometers over 1 liter, right? It's the same thing, right? Because you can just rewrite that divided by 1. But to me, this makes more sense because it actually kind of tells us, it gives a meaning to this ratio here, right? It tells us that for every 1 liter, there's this many kilometers. And because we're trying to find the consumption per 100 kilometers, right? What you do is you set up a proportion or make a proportion and set it equal to this. So you set this equal to, well, we know it's per 100 kilometers. So we have 100 kilometers on the top. And you know that you're trying to find the number of liters. So we're going to call that X liters, right? And now, well, we're trying to find the value of X, right? So you can cross multiply. So you get 13.594x, right, equals 100. And of course, if you solve for x, you do 100 divided by 13.594. You get x is around 7.36 liters, right? And if you look at our answer choices, that 7.36, that's closest to 7.4, so our answer choice is C. So key thing for these unit conversion problems is to first, right, the first step is to look at this, what they give you in the start, and look at what they give you in the end, right? For the starting phrase, convert that into a ratio, right? For the ending phrase, look at the units that they're asking for. So in this case, they're asking for liters, and there's also a kilometers involved. So that kind of gives you a goal to work towards, right? You know that there has to be those units in the final result. And your third step is to follow the flow, right? Keep on crossing out, keep on multiplying until you get a unit which has both of those, right? Both of those things in that final phrase. So here's kilometers and liters. And usually for most of these problems, that's actually the final step. That's all you have to do. But for this problem, right, we had to find the amount of liters per 100 kilometers. So then you set up a proportion. Hopefully that made sense. If it didn't, right, just please leave any questions you have down in the comments. But once again, I would appreciate it if you hit the like and click on that subscribe. We post videos here daily to help you on your SAT and ACT prep. So if you want to be notified when one comes out, click on the notification bell. But once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.